Hello students, this is your friendly science teacher, Mrs. Garcia, and today I'm going to show you how to complete a graph using the electronic tools that are at your disposal. Hand drawing a graph is completely acceptable, as I've said, but it's really quite easy as well and makes it look really sharp to complete it using the tools on your computer. And I've had some questions about that, about, well, people not being able to find it or understanding how to do it. So here is our next Earth Science lab. If you're not in Earth Science, this is still going to apply, but if you are in Earth Science, then you kind of get a heads up on this next lab that'll be due. So I do like you to save your labs with your name, something as easy as your first initial and last name is just fine as long as your last name is in there. Now on this particular lab, the data is already given to you. So in normal labs, you are collecting the data yourself and then you're making a graph. But the point of this lab is that you're graphing the data that's already provided. So on the first graph for this assignment, you're going to plot distance versus radioactive age. Now, normally, this is already kind of going to be a lot of work to do that. Normally, you would have to also put the axes in here. This one already has it, so I will go ahead and show how to do that as well because normally this won't be here. So go to the Insert tab, and you're going to use text boxes for these ones. And go ahead and just pick your standard text box. It does annoyingly go in the middle of your stuff, but come up here to wrap text, and we're going to go to in front of text. And that way we can move it around to wherever we want and however we want. So if these numbers weren't here, I would do something to this effect. I would make it long, and then I'd go ahead and put my numbers in. You normally will have to determine what number intervals you want to use. But this one's kind of cheating because they were already there, so I'm going to use the ones that exist. Okay, and just get in the ballpark of those lines. I'm going to know because they're dark, thick lines, so I can see that. And on here, it went in increments of 10. If I wasn't just doing this as a demonstration, I would spend longer making it look prettier than that, but especially because I'm a perfectionist. But for time's sake, we're just going to move on. Then you still have to put a title on the, or a label on the axes. This one is radioactive age, and up top it said MYA. That stands for millions of years ago. So if you see BYA, that's billions of years ago. And then we'll go ahead and be fancy, and we're going to change the text direction here. Oh, and again, I need to change that. It's just right there in the middle of my stuff, so we're going to go to in front of text so that it makes it look nicer, right? Less complicated. Ta-da! That's how you would make a label for your axes, and it's beautiful and perfect, and I can read it, and it's not handwritten and not some weird picture that I can't read. But anyway, like I said, still acceptable as long as I can read it. The pictures I've seen, if you're not taking the picture directly from up above, it's really hard to see it. As a matter of fact, it's pretty much impossible. So make sure if you're taking a picture of your hand-drawn graph, it's from directly above. And make sure everything's nice and dark so I can see it. Okay, so now I'm actually going to put points on. Oh, and we do already have a title here, which is fantastic. Normally you'll have to put on a title. Now I'm going to come back up here. This is a ton, so I'm not going to spend the time to show you every single one. So you have 0 and 0. You don't need to start there. For this first one, we're doing distance and radioactive age, right? So we'll go ahead and start. Here's an easy one. We'll start with 100 and 0.4, and obviously there's not 0.4 on the graph, so we're going to estimate this. We'll do 100 and about half, because then we can go in between. So 100 and then about halfway between the 0 and the 1. So go to Insert and go to Shapes. There's a bunch of different options. If there weren't so many points, I would suggest you can be fun and use a smiley face or a heart or the sun or a star, whatever. I wouldn't care, but on this particular graph, there's so many points, you're going to have to make them really small. So just go ahead and use your typical circle. What I did, I just lost. Okay. And we're going to make this really small. Okay, and then it's going to automatically go to white. Let's go ahead and color it in. We can make it black so it's easier. Oh, I just put a border on it somehow. Let's not. Let me go back and undo that. Okay, so we're just going to make it black. So there's my first point. For some reason the cursor's staying on it. You can exactly move it to where you want by using the arrows on your keyboard instead of just trying to move it with the mouse. And then I would also go ahead, I would highlight that, and now you can just copy and paste it. So you can copy and keep pasting that one. Personally, I like to use Control-C and then Control-V for copy and paste. So now let me go up here and look at my next point. I'm going to kind of skip a few, just, so that you can see what's my next easiest one. How about 250? We're going to round that to 250 and 2. So I would go ahead and put that at halfway between here and only on number 2 there. See, this is going to be really tedious for those of you that have earth science and have to do this lab. Sorry about that. Again, I'm going to Control-C and Control-V to copy and paste that. Go to my next one, so on and so forth. You get it. Let's go. Let's see, 1,000, and let's round that to 10. On the earth science one, you really can round. I'm not going to be looking for how specifically you got in that area. And then let's go ahead and skip to the last point so I can at least show you a trend line. So we'll say 3,500 and 42 and a half. 3,500 all the way up here, about 42 and a half. So we'll move that between the 42 and 43. Now, another good thing that this graph does, you never stop your intervals exactly at whatever your last point is. You have to go at least one interval above. This one happened to do 2 more intervals, but it could have stopped at 50 and it could have stopped at 4,000. But you do need to go at least one more interval above whatever your last point is. So then this particular graph wants you to do a trend line. That's not connecting the dots. You're going to put a line. So same thing, we're going to go to Insert, Shapes, just a straight line from about here to here. You want it to go in the middle of where your points are intersecting. Okay, so see, I have this one up here, but I have this one down here. So yeah, that's about the middle, and that's fine. Either way, I can see that the trend, it steadily increases, okay? So as distance from that main starting island increases, as you get farther out from Kaluau, we'll say, probably didn't pronounce that right, as you get farther away from Kaluau, the age of the islands are getting older, and that's the trend that you're going to see with that one. And then you do the same thing for this graph down here. Now, that's not all. I know you probably thought it was done, and I am trying to hurry so that you don't have to spend millions of years watching this video. But there's an even easier, better way to graph with Excel. So come over here, go ahead and open up Excel. We'll just do a blank workbook. You don't even have to save it because ultimately you're not saving the Excel sheet. You're going to save the graph. And then I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this entire column to over here, copy and paste this entire column to over here. You don't even have to do the titles actually now that I think about it, but so then copy and paste your data and go to insert. I would do recommended charts. These ones, I don't know, for some reason are like more complicated than you need. Let's go to recommended charts, and yeah, we're going to go ahead and do a scatter plot. Press OK. And it's practically magic. Here's your beautiful chart. There's still a few things missing. You can't just take this, copy and paste it. Look, chart title, that's not a real title, right? And we need to include our axes titles. But look at this over here. Ooh, little plus sign. Let's see what, oh, yep, okay. We want axis titles, and we want a trend line. Oh my gosh, this is doing all the work for me. This is fantastic. Okay, so remember this was radioactive age in millions of years ago. This one was distance. You can keep it as easy as that, and it's in kilometers. And then let's say for a title, most teachers will tell you, you know, your 1 or 2 word title is fine. In science, you have permission to be as wordy as possible. As a matter of fact, the more wordy, the better you sound. I can go ahead and capitalize that. But yeah, feel free to be as wordy as possible. It makes you sound smarter in science. So, except for it's not letting me expand this any further, which is making me upset, but okay. Either way, look, ta-da! It's done. And I'm going to click on this whole thing, and I'm going to copy and paste the whole thing. Again, you know, you can do your copy right there, but I like to press Control-C. I'm going to come over here, and now I could actually just go ahead. If you're going to do this, just delete this entire one. Go ahead and delete that, and then just put this here. Boom. And it's perfect. Who doesn't want to do that? All right, well, that's all I have for today, so feel free to ask me any questions if you have any.